Hello and a warm welcome back to the channel. My name is Carl from Team Burgundy, and this time we're looking at one of the Affinity pools from Blagdon. Blagdon make ponds in different shapes and sizes, and these come with different options for either a fountain or a waterfall feature, and for various budgets. The model we went for is called the Mocha corner pool and comes with a built-in pump, UVC filter and light assembly. So as usual with our videos, we're going to be taking you through things like what's in the box, setup including assembly and some basic electrical requirements, and our review and final thoughts after about a month of use. But on top of that, we're also going to include some extra areas that will be useful, like some essential prerequisites that you will need to have in place, some tips to look out for while putting your pool together, and some accessories that we use to help get the maximum out of our pool and give our new fish the best chance of having a healthy and happy life. Okay, now just before we get into it, I just wanted to take a few moments to say that this video is not sponsored in any way, so thank you for checking us out, and if you do find it useful or interesting, please help us to grow the channel by clicking the like button or subscribing if you want to see more in the future. Okay, so first things first, the pool does come flat packed, so some assembly is required. I was able to put ours together on my own, and without rushing, the whole thing took me a couple of hours with just a few scraped knuckles. I would definitely recommend having an extra pair of hands available to make life easier. You are going to need some basic tools like a large Phillips and a flathead screwdriver, a good pair of snips or decent scissors. Definitely invest in a decent pair of safety gloves. And on the electrical side, you'll need to be able to wire a plug, so a decent terminal screwdriver. Now something else to bear in mind is you are going to need to buy 2 3-pin plugs, because they're not included in the box, but we'll talk about this more later in the video. Now finally, a couple of other things to consider before we move on are the location that you choose for your pool. It's going to need to be within 10 metres of mains power, as that's the length of the cable that's included, and as this pool is going to be outside, that mains power needs to be suitably weatherproof. Also bear in mind that these things can get pretty heavy once they're full of water. Our model holds around 300 litres when full, so make sure the surface you're going to use is level and capable of supporting the full weight. In the box you'll find the frame of the pool, ground mat, side panels, pool liner, and with our model the pump and filter unit, along with a selection of fountain heads, and a basket that can hold a water plant of your choosing. Finally, you'll find a bag of fittings and a basic tool. Now don't be fooled here, this tool is nowhere near strong enough to use and will bend on you almost instantly. Put this to one side and use proper tools as I mentioned earlier to make your life that little bit easier. Luckily everything else included feels nice and high quality. The framework is well painted and the metal is thick enough not to bend easily. The liner is thick and well constructed, so I don't expect it to split or fail, and the pump and the other accessories have a good weight to them. Nothing in the box feels cheap, which is reassuring when you consider the cost of the pond. Like any good flat pack assembly, start by laying out all the parts that are listed and make sure everything is present and correct. Take some time here to read the instructions so you have a decent understanding of what's involved, and when you are ready, lay out the ground mat where you are going to build the pond. This can go either way up, and then start to assemble the main frame. One slight frustration that is worth mentioning is that each part has a sticker with a letter of the alphabet on it. Now these stickers are useful to identify each part, but they don't seem to have any consistency as to which way up they are stuck. You would think that all the stickers are stuck on with the letter being the same orientation, but I found that some are upside down and some aren't. This led to installing 2 of the side panels incorrectly at first. As you can see, these 2 side panels are incorrectly installed as the window is in the wrong place. It should be the same way around as this panel, so that when we flip the whole pond over at the end, the window in the panel lines up with the window in the liner. Not the end of the world, and all you can really do is take your time and check each piece as you install it to make sure it's going to be correct once the pool is finished. Another tip is to make sure that each join is lined up correctly. Now this can be quite fiddly and requires a little bit of physical strength as you put the final pieces together, but if you don't get them lined up to start, then when you flip the pool over, your corners will look ugly and won't hold together strongly. Take time to make sure that this piece of the frame fits inside the lip on each plastic corner piece. With the frame together, you can insert the side panels. There isn't anything too tricky here, just keep each panel level as you slide into the frame. You may need to use a soft mallet to help tap the panel into place, as they can get quite stiff towards the end. The last parts of the frame that go together after the side panels are fitted are more difficult and will be made much easier if you have an assistant to help you. as you need to line the uprights up, position the support piece, and get a fixing in and tightened. By this point the pond is becoming quite rigid, so again requires a reasonable amount of physical strength. That being said, I was putting our pond together in January on a cold day, so you may find this easier in warmer weather, as everything will probably be a little bit more flexible. Let me know in the comments if you struggled here, as I'm curious if this was just my experience. Happily, once you have all the frame together, the rest of the job is easier. There is a support cable that simply connects corner to corner, and then you're ready to flip the pond over and install the liner. The liner is easily dropped in and secured using the fixings provided. Start by clipping 4 of the 5 corners over the hanging points, and then insert the rest of these screw fixings around the edge. Now jumping forward slightly, another tip here is not to fully clip this corner of the liner in place just yet. This is where your pump cabling is going to exit the pond, and if you clip this corner in now, you will need to take it off again when you run the cable to your power socket. If your pond came with the plant basket and you want to use it, then this can be easily attached now using the same fixing method. The fixings just go through the holes provided. Okay, so that's the basic frame and liner assembly taken care of. So now we can move on to the pump and the filter setup. So the main components that need to be connected together are the large filter housing, the pump, which also has a UV light inside to help keep your water clean, some simple tubing, connectors, water flow dial, and your choice of fountain head. Starting with the filter housing, inside is a UV lamp which comes on whenever the pump is running. Now you won't be able to see the lamp light up with the naked eye, but there is a small indicator to show you that the lamp is working correctly once you are fully connected and powered on. Also inside the filter housing are the various filter components. The handle of the housing acts as a lock, so to access these, just lift the handle and switch it over to the other side. You can then lift the lid off. Another important tip is to make sure that you empty the clear bags that have filter media inside them. To do this, take the lid off, remove the 3 layers of foam filter out of the way, and here you will see 4 bags with the white cylinder-shaped filter media. You can leave the media in the netting sacks that come inside the plastic bags, but you must get rid of the plastic bags for the filtering to work correctly. With that done, you can place your other filter components back in, and you are ready to move on. On the opposite side of the filter housing is where you fit the pump unit. I think it's worth mentioning that the transformer is not waterproof and does not go in the pond itself. It is IP68 rated. In other words, it is weatherproof but not waterproof. As I said towards the start of the video, you're going to need to wire your own plugs when installing this pond. You'll need 2 altogether, with one going to the bare cables that connect to the pump transformer, and the other going to the bare cables that connect to the UV lamp. Moving on to the pump and light assembly, this comes in 2 parts. You have the main pump and light component, and the AC adapter that provides power. The light is adjustable in all directions, which is nice, and just in front of the light is a green rubber flap that you can position so that the light only comes on when the ambient light drops below a certain level. In theory, this means that the light only comes on at dusk or at night, but I've found that this doesn't work very well, so I've left the flap in the position so that the light is on at all times. All that is required is to push fit the connector into the open port on the adapter, and then wire up your second plug using the bare wires. Next up, fit the tubing and fountain head. This is nice and straightforward. I ended up using 2 straight sections, the flow dial and the sprinkler fountain head. Each connection is either a screw type connection or push fit. There is a good amount of adjustment at each connection, and the light is also adjustable so you can fine tune everything once your pond is full of water, with the aim being for the fountain head to just be at water level. And then screw the pump assembly into the filter housing, making sure all connections are nice and tight. You can now place the filter housing into the pond and run the cabling out through the back corner that we left unclipped earlier. Once you have both cables outside the pond lining, you can finish clipping the liner to the frame, and then for neatness I have secured the 2 cables together with some black cable ties. Now is the time for a final visual inspection. There are some stickers that can be removed, and make sure that you are happy with the final position of the pond now, as you won't be able to move it once it's full of water. Any ground mat that may still be visible can be adjusted or tucked out of sight, and when you are happy, you can start filling the pond. I used water straight out of our garden hose here. Be patient and resist the urge to walk away while the pond is filling. It's important to keep an eye on things just in case you have any leaks or any other issues. As far as treatments for the water, we picked up a couple of things to help here. These are optional, but we have had good results with our fish so far, so I would probably recommend them if you can, as it just gives you some reassurance that your water is in the best condition. The first is Blagdon's Fresh Start. All that is required here is to add a small amount to the pond while it is filling, and this helps remove chlorine and other things from tap water that pond life won't like. Follow the instructions on the packaging for exactly how much to use, based on the size of your pond, and resist the urge to add a little bit extra here for good luck. Finally was a pack of Blagdon Pond Dip Test Strips. This pack contains 2 different types of strips to test the water for different levels. Once the pond is full and the water is settled, all you need to do is dip one of each of the strips into the water and compare it to the chart on the bottle to see if your water is suitable. I would recommend waiting a week before adding any sort of fish to the pond, and to test your water daily to make sure that it is nice and stable. I think it's also worth adding some oxygenating plants to help combat algae build-up, which can be especially challenging in the warmer months. If you would like to see a follow-up video on some additional tips that I have learned since setting our pond up, please let me know in the comment section. So what do we think about this pond? There are definitely some pros and cons. Overall, the quality of the components and materials is really high, and as long as you make a good job of setting it up, then the finished product is very good value for money. It would be nice if the required plugs were included, but this wasn't a huge pain for me. Assembly is quite straightforward as long as you follow the instructions carefully and plan your build. The instructions are clear enough, with only a few minor frustrations that were easily rectified. Maintenance of the pond is more time consuming than I was expecting. We have struggled with build-up of algae over the summer months, which has meant changing the water twice, which is quite time consuming, and cleaning the liner, which is quite hard work. That being said, we seem to be doing better now after adding some additional plants and solutions to keep on top of the algae. We did lose a couple of fish at one stage, and I couldn't work out why, but at the moment we have a good number of fish and all seem to be happy and healthy. Overall, we are really happy with the pond. It's beautiful to look at, and it's very relaxing watching the fish and listening to the water sounds from the fountain. It's also very attractive at night, with the light and sound helping to create a very calm atmosphere. Running costs of the pump and light are really low, at a few pence per day, so we think as long as you have the time to invest in maintaining water quality, then installing one of these ponds would make an excellent addition to any garden. Well, that's it guys. We really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I've been Carl from Team Burgundy, and we'll see you next time.